in the week, a little bit of recruiting, but the back end of it's loaded with recruiting. Our entire staff will be out Thursday and Friday. Really important for us. First and foremost inside the state, and then continue throughout the areas we continue to go recruit, finish this class, and also push forward a little bit. So with that, I'll open it up.
Questions? We'll start with Vince, then we'll go to Brent in the back.
How much work do you get a chance during the open week to get with your guys that aren't starters, that are special teams players, backups, to get them maybe some additional reps so they're up to speed in case you need them?
Yeah, some of the guys that you're trying to get healthy have limited reps or maybe very few reps during the course of the week. Those guys start taking a bulk of the reps. Some of your young guys get a little bit more of an opportunity to go out there and learn and compete too. So you're balancing all those factors at every position and make sure that your young guys in particular get some growth this week.
Yeah, Coach, when you do your self-scout this week and you look at third downs offensively and defensively, what do you got to clean up on third and short offensively, and then defensively, what do you got to clean up on the third and long situations that have really bothered you, in particular the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, third and short from last week during the course of the season, there's been some times that we've been really successful. Last week weren't. Some of that was just identification in the run game. Some of it was decision making where there's read opportunities for the quarterback too. So got to continue to clean those things up. Defensively, in particular on third and long, got to get it off the football field. Some of that has been quarterback extending plays, throwing the football down the field. Some of that's been quarterback scramble. For us, when we're in our four-man front and our three-man front, being able to have the ability to push the pocket but then have rush integrity too is going to be really important for us. And then when scrambles happen, we got to do a better job of matching up at that point and taking one guy.
Coach, kind of take me through what Jimmy Callaway's got to do to get back on the field. He made some plays early in the year and then, of course, had the drop at Florida, and I'm not sure it's been seen since.
Yeah, I don't think it's just because of the drop. Continue to push and press, and when I say press, just urgency in your preparation. Everything that goes into it, off the field, on the field. We've got a great belief in Jimmy as a football player. Bayless sliding inside is a part of that reason, where those guys haven't had as many opportunities. But believe in Jimmy, continues to compete. I know he's going to continue to get better every single week. I know it's important to him.
Weston.
Josh, you've been around the game for a bit as a player and now as a coach. I know you never want to make excuses, but with the depth situation y'all have as a team, I know it kind of is what it is, but have you experienced something sort of like this before where it's sort of this thin in some spots?
For sure, this is the thinnest football team, just based off the numbers that I've been involved with as a coach or as a player. At the end of the day, there's no asterisk next to the season, right? Our players and our coaches, it is what it is, and you're either good enough or you're not when you walk off the field on Saturday. I love competing with this group. They're going to compete extremely hard. We continue to grow that way. There's some things that we got to clean up that we can control that will help us play more efficiently at times.
Josh, during the spring, I don't know that people outside of the program would have looked at Cedric Tillman as a guy that was going to go down to Alabama and not only be a starter but also ball out the way that he did. What is he doing so well that allows him to be so successful right now?
Yeah, I think who you are, your maturity, how you approach everything every single day shows up in your consistency as a player. His consistency as a player is a direct result of who he is off the field. It's a direct result of the effort and strain that he puts in while we're in the building meeting, practicing, and when coaches aren't with you, what he has put into it. He plays with great confidence because he understands his job at the highest level. The game's never moving too fast of him because of this preparation during the course of the week. That's why he's able to go out and perform and play extremely hard and efficient.
Josh, you mentioned getting out and recruiting Thursday and Friday. How excited are you to do that, and what kind of feedback have you guys been getting as you've really settled in here and had some time now?
Yeah, in particular inside of the state, the way that our coaching staff has put an emphasis on it, communicated with the coaches in the area. As soon as we got an opportunity to get out with COVID, obviously no spring recruiting, as soon as we were able to get out the way that we've hit the state, and we'll continue to. This week's a big part of that. Just developing relationships and the line of communication with the coaches here has been instrumental in us continuing to push forward on the recruiting side of it. Great feedback from players. They see the brand of football that we're playing. It's an exciting brand of football in all three phases of the game. They know we're going to be aggressive. They know we're going to play fast, not just in tempo, but the way our kids are able to cut it loose. They know we're going to call it aggressive in all three phases of the football game. It's something that is really attractive to players. The ability for them to see the environment inside of Neyland Stadium, like it was a week ago and has been early in the season, is a huge part of the recruiting push that we've been able to make too.
West and back to Austin.
Josh, obviously, I guess on Thursday and Friday, like you said, you'll be recruiting, but what about Saturdays during, the Saturday open day during the season? Are you a guy who you're sitting there watching ball from 12 to 12, or are you a guy who kind of tries to get away, see the family, and kind of get away from the game for a minute?
I'll definitely be around my family. My son and I will probably play catch, do something in the morning. My daughter will settle up on the couch with me in the afternoon, and we'll watch some football for sure.
To piggyback Mike's question about recruiting, when you first got here and you had all the kind of cloud of the investigation hanging over and everything else, and I know part of the pitch was, we just need to put something on film for everybody. How patient did you have to be when you had so many months before the first game, and then once you kind of got out there and have had some success offensively and put up some some numbers, what has that kind of, I guess, feedback been from players across the board, not just offensively but defensively as well?
Yeah, for sure. You're selling what you've done at previous places, and you're selling why it's going to happen here at UT. That's offense, defense, and special teams. It's the relationship and the energy and the program that you're building. Now that they get an opportunity to see the product on the football field, they know that those things ring true. The ability to play extremely aggressive on all three phases of the game. Our defense leading the country in tackles for loss. Offensively, the tempo and the aggressiveness and the balance that we're going to have in the run and the pass game. The product is starting to sell itself, and I say that meaning that they understand what they're going to be playing in, and there's a ton of excitement from recruits. It's a completely different feel when you have something that you're able to show them that they can see, it's tangible to them, versus trying to sell them something that's from another school, as far as the product of what you're putting on the field.
Brent and Patrick.
Coach, with a couple of offensive linemen, I know you said last week K'Ron Calvert was going to start to get some work. And Kingston Harris, where is he at? With both those guys, how realistic is it to get a guy in game shape when they've missed the amount of time that they have missed at this point?
Yeah, it's difficult, but I do think those guys have an ability to come back. Can they handle a full game week one that they're back? I think that's asking a lot of them. But I think our rehab team, meaning our medical, with Geronimo, and then our strength and conditioning staff, the combination of those two things gets them back where they're a functional player when they're coming off of their rehab, versus just being a guy that's been in the medical room and now you're just trying to grow as a football player. They've already started doing some of that functional movement with our strength and conditioning staff before they even get back into individuals and working with our entire group. I do think it's reasonable for those guys to be able to play at a high level when they get back.
Coach, with Hendon, he was here when you got here. Did you know much about him, and kind of how did you see the way he's played? Did you see that happening with him when you got here?
Yeah, like all of the guys on our current roster, watched who was here. A small sample size with Hendon, had watched some of what he had done at Virginia Tech. I think for Hendon, he's a great example of a guy that comes in, buys into a culture, has some maturity, has grown into a really good football leader inside of our locker room, but his consistency and his habits every single day. And then what we're doing offensively, being able to put him in a position, is why he's playing at a much higher level than he previously had. I think it speaks to Hendon, and I think it speaks to what we're able to do offensively and put the quarterback in a good position to be successful.
How do you evaluate your linebacker position, one, and then two, or any of those other guys, Aaron Willis, any of those Garland, any of those other guys in a better position to try to contribute for you?
Those guys are continuing to get work with our defense and continue to grow. Seeing both of those guys play more snaps on special teams, continuing to play and grow in that way. Do believe, as we go down the home stretch, those guys got to be ready to help us on the defensive side of the football as well. Their growth is important to us as an entire football staff.
And what about those three guys that are playing for you?
Yeah, tons of positives from them. There's some things that they got to do better. Some tackling when they're in space. Some of it just scheme-wise being better. But there's a lot of positives that those guys have done as well, fitting gaps and communication and making plays.
Ryan and Wes.
Josh, how did Kamal Haddon play Saturday, and what have you seen from Byron Young specifically? What's he doing better recently that's allowed him to obviously show up a little bit more in the games?
Yeah, Kamal did a lot of positives. Last couple of weeks has continued to get better week by week, more comfortable in our system, playing faster, just anticipation and seeing things with his eyes. Everybody saw the punch out inside the 10-yard line. Great competitive play by him, never giving up on the play. I think he's got a really high ceiling. He's going to continue to grow. A guy that, came in the summer, right? Your installs during the course of the summer, got banged up early in training camp, has just had some nagging injuries. And as we got into, week 3, week 4, started to get a little bit more healthy, got more reps, gets his opportunity, takes advantage of his opportunity, and plays at a really high level. I think it speaks to his ability to just continue to press, have purpose every day, continue to grow as a player. It's a great lesson for a lot of our players. You don't know when your time's going to come. When it comes, you got to be ready for it. It's easy for a young player to get frustrated early when things aren't right. Maybe you're not healthy. It's a great example of him just continuing to grow.
And Byron also.
Yeah, Byron continues to make a huge impact for us defensively. His ability to rush the passer is something that we felt like he was going to be able to bring. Got an electric first 2 steps, does a really good job with some of our movement and twist games, whether he's the guy that should be coming clean or whether he's the picker too. I think he gets better every single week. He's a really young football player, just time on task and the amount of reps that he's had. Would have loved to have him week 1 and week 2. Obviously we didn't. In some ways that probably slowed his progress down a little bit. Game reps for him have been huge. You can see he just gets more and more comfortable each and every week. Our entire defensive line, him included, continue to get better with their fundamentals and technique every week too.
Josh, you talked about Kamal a minute ago, but throughout the season, whether on defense with guys like Kamal and Turnage, and offense guys like Ollie Lane and Dane Davis and Laneith Whitehead, when you have a team and guys have to step in throughout the season and they do find ways to produce, what does that do for the culture, sort of the belief within a team that, hey, like, we've got guys who can do this?
I think it speaks to what we talk about. The next man's got to be ready to step up and play at a really high level. I think there's buying, just an overall belief in that. Whoever we line up, I think our guys believe in. I think it creates buy-in. The more guys that you're able to play, it creates an energy inside of your locker room, inside of your building every day that creates positive momentum.
2 more, Ben and Brent.
Josh, when you're evaluating whether you want to take a guy out of the portal or not, I imagine you don't just completely look at the stats and the production. So how do you weigh the stats, the production, while also evaluating their skill set on film?
I think as you move forward as a program, the culture is really important. And so the players, the first thing that you see on the video, I don't care if it's a portal player or a high school player, you want to make sure that they're smart, competitive, love football, and can be a great teammate too. And that culture piece is really important, that you build those things and recruit to it.
A little bit of a follow-up with that. With so much going on the last month of the season and you're going out recruiting this week, you're trying to figure out numbers. Do you have conversations with guys who can be super seniors about kind of where they're at? Do you have conversations with guys during this week about maybe who are thinking about their future in terms of whether it's the right fit for them? I mean, how do you figure out numbers, and is this week a kind of an important time for those conversations?
Yeah, I think you get a gauge during the course of this week. Nothing's finalized during the course of this week. There's still a third of your season. For guys that are going to be super seniors, getting information at the end of the year, where do they stack up? What's their potential to have the chance to move on, be drafted high enough, make a team, and be able to have a future, I think is a part of the conversation. You start preparing some of that right now, but you try to, get yourself ready to gather the information at the end of the year and have a real conversation with them and potentially their families as well. You try to get a gauge of the guys that maybe don't. Are they just ready to be done? Are they thinking about coming back and being part of this football team again the following year? That's all a part of your final numbers with 85. Like I said before, I certainly think we're going to be able to recruit a full class this year, and with some of the changes in NCAA legislation, we'll see where we're at with the plus numbers.
Thank you, Coach. We'll have players shortly.
Guys, enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you, Coach.
Have a great weekend, too. Jeff? Guys.